see me in person, ain't nothing. I got nothing but regret. I got it. I got some shit I'm doing right now.
Hey, chat. We about to collab right now, chat.
Hey! Don't ask me nothing. I ain't gonna say what you want.
Oh no,
Don't
¿qué
ask me nothing.
pasó?
I ain't gonna say what you want. Don't ask me nothing. I ain't gonna say what you
Es
want.
lo mío.
Don't ask me nothing. I ain't gonna
Tienes
say
uno.
what you want. Don't ask me nothing.
Where's
I
your...
ain't gonna say what you want. Every time I see a nigga,
The one Daddy gave you.
people be crazy talking on the net. See me in person,
Oh.
ain't nothing but no regret. I don't even know. I just see it popping, lock it, drop it, stop it, and they gon' whop it. Don't ask me nothing. Don't ask me nothing. Don't ask me nothing. I ain't gonna say what you want. Yeah, I like that. That's real. Don't ask me nothing.
Let me get the
I'm
engineer in
close.
here, man.
Get him. I'm close. Don't ask me nothing. I ain't gonna say what you want. Every time I see a nigga, I am back. I'm like, I'm feeling this shit.
I'm feeling that.
Sí.
You're natural.
Don't ask me nothing. I ain't gonna say what you want. Every time I step out the door, another nigga run. People be crazy talking on the net. Then they see me in person, ain't nothing but regret. I ain't got no time. I be working. I be doing what I'm doing. Can't be telling me.
Muchas gracias, mi amor.
That's a good flow to bop by into.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Okay, don't ask me nothing. Every time I step
Yeah.
Load the beat up.
Hmm?
Okay, nothing.
Es mío. Oh, this is mine. You have yours.
I'm gonna do the hook though.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. What's the hook? You think it ever say my
Better bitch, I want my bitch better. I don't want a wetter bitch, I want my bitch better. I
No,
hold it
tienes
down,
uno.
baby girl.
Go get yours. Este mío.
Load up.
Me gusta esto. I like this one.
wait a minute.
Y tienes uno. You have one. Este mío. This is mine. Go get yours.
Let me do it over. So you got it.
Yeah.
Do the hook.
Do the hook again, man.
Blueface, baby. Yeah. Alright. I don't want a better bitch, I want my bitch better. I don't want a wetter bitch, I want my bitch wetter. So bitch, baby boy shoulda kept her. Niggas gonna.
They said don't ask me nothing. Don't ask me nothing.
Oh,
I ain't gonna
better
say
bitch, I
what you
want my
want.
bitch
Don't
better.
ask me.
And then yeah, you come in there with that.
Don't ask me nothing.
No,
I ain't gonna say
no,
what you
thank
want.
you.
Don't ask me nothing. I ain't gonna say what you want.
You have yours. Go get yours.
Say what you want. He asked me what I'm doing. I said, ain't. No, this gonna be good.
No, thank you.
Y'all, I ain't coming home. Yeah, I'm about to write y'all.
If you throw that tablet, I'm taking it from you.
He asked me where I'm going. Nigga, not home.
Oops. Oops is right. Yes, I am. Probably shouldn't be showing you guys this, but oh, you guys won't tell nobody.
One of the most accessible percussion instruments you have when drums are illegal, as they were for black people for most of this music's developmental period.
Because it's Sonic the Hedgehog. Get it? I know it's a bad dad joke, but
Hedging.
but we'll watch this short clip. It's talking about the film, initial releases, and essentially the masses being like, no, this does not look like our Sonic from the Sega video games that we played back in the day. And luckily they made changes. So this really short video will just kind of explain this negotiation that took place, essentially. So yes, I know, isn't it? Atrocious is the perfect word. Let's go ahead and watch this short video.
When Paramount announced that they were working on a movie version of Sega's iconic Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, fans were cautiously optimistic. But after the trailer was released in early 2019, this realistic hedgehog-like take on Sonic went viral, as fans took to social media to roast the design. Here are all the changes they made to the classic character in the new trailer. The most noticeable difference between their first and second take is Sonic's eyes. Much like Sega's design, Sonic's eyes are much bigger in the new version. In the old one, his eyes were shrunken to make them more anatomically similar to an actual hedgehog. This is still slightly different from Sega's version of Sonic, which technically has just one big eyeball with two separate pupils, as you can see here. Paramount's new design fades Sonic's blue fur into his tan mouth for a slightly more realistic depiction. His eyebrows are also much more defined, allowing him to show a wider range of emotions. The new version's facial features are also more similar to Sega's design, with his cartoonish nose, mouth, and teeth. Paramount's first take gave Sonic wide nostrils and a nose that blended in with his snout. This new one sticks out more like Sega's design. His disturbing, human-like teeth are now hidden beneath his upper lip. They made his mouth more animated, so it can shift to the side instead of being anchored down to the front. What really freaked fans out about Paramount's first take was that they gave him joints and muscles, knees, elbows, and calves. The Sonic we know from cartoons and video games doesn't have a defined bone structure. The new take swaps out Sonic's muscles and joints for the more cartoon-like spaghetti arms and legs. His torso is also more defined and separated from his limbs, instead of looking like a child in a Sonic the Hedgehog onesie. There's more of a triangular shape to the torso, with broad shoulders that narrow towards his waist. Sonic's fur is now a more vibrant blue, and his belly went from white to tan to match Sega's original design. One thing Paramount didn't change was the color of Sonic's arms. In Sega's design, his arms are the same color as his mouth and belly, tan. Paramount made his arms blue in their first take, and they kept them blue for their second. In keeping with their desire for a realistic Sonic, their first take had a lot more noticeable fur on him. The new take still has fur, but his body seems smoother to reflect how he looks in Sega's design. And the spikes on his head and back are much sharper as a result, and more closely resemble the Sega version. Paramount's new Sonic isn't just anatomically similar to Sega's design, it also features Sonic's white gloves instead of just white fur, much bigger socks, and a much more accurate depiction of his iconic red shoes, all the while still managing to make them look like a modern pair of sneakers. Overall, Paramount presented us with a design that looks much more like Sega's cartoony version of Sonic, while still maintaining some of the realistic fur and texture of their first take. And so far, fans seem to be happy with the changes. Are you happy with the new version of Sonic? Let us know in the comments below.
Okay, so as you can see, they obviously put out into the world a Sonic that was not okay, and the audience let them know, and so there was that negotiation, as this video details. There were some things that were changed to make it look a little bit more like Sega's design, and then there were a few things like, you know, keeping the blue arms. That makes sense, right? Like, I think it still looks pretty good. So, thankfully the new design is so much better. But yes, as Charles said, it was so bad, so I'm glad they made changes. So that's also just interesting to think about, again, in week 3 when we start talking a bit more about audiences. You'll see that some audiences have a lot of power, and that's kind of where hegemonic negotiation starts to really come into play. Sometimes it works out in this case, sometimes it doesn't work out, like that petition that was going around for Game of Thrones to film the entire last season because all the audience, or a lot of the fans, thought it was really awful. But yeah, we'll talk a lot more about the power that fans have and celebrities have in week 3.
No, they don't need to refilm it. They just need to edit it. Split, like, you know.
All right, so the last
Photoshop is
definition
for.
of popular culture is what is called postmodern culture. And again, this is a blending of all the things. So a blend of high and low culture, folk and mass culture. There are lots of examples of this. We can think of the Broadway play Hamilton, right, where we have music from Lin-Manuel Miranda, who merges hip hop and history to tell the story of, some of our founding fathers, right, and changes quite a lot of things. But theater, which, again, was once thought of as like high culture, but becoming so accessible, and even more so during the pandemic when Disney Plus had the Broadway show recorded and streamed on, the Disney Plus platform, making it accessible to that many more people. Another good example, very similar example, is the film Wicked, and now the second part that's just released, Wicked for Good. Again, it's adapted from the Broadway musical show, which was actually adapted from a book. Again, Broadway generally is thought of as maybe a little less accessible, but now it's in movie form with lots of popular actresses and actors, I should say, that again kind of makes it accessible to more people. This last definition of pop culture is that really in this like postmodern world, and that is like in today's world, this distinction between like authentic versus commercial is a bit more blurred. And in pop culture today, users are again free to embrace something that's maybe manufactured content, and then alter it for their own use or reject it altogether. So again, it's like this blurring of high and low culture, mass and folk culture. But the video I'm just going to show you a little bit of it. It's kind of like showing you a making of this film called Loving Vincent. It's about the painter Vincent van Gogh, who is among one of our most famous painters in the world. Most people know his Starry Starry Night painting, right? Usually that painting is in a particular museum, I believe somewhere in Europe. I can't remember if it's one of the ones in Paris or not. There are a lot of Van Gogh's paintings in Paris, of course, but right, like going to Paris and seeing one of Van Gogh's paintings in person is a little bit inaccessible. But this is kind of blurring together. So it's telling his life story, but telling it in the art form of like Vincent Van Gogh. So
Yeah, because sometimes they talk too slow, and I can still understand it in times 2.
Really impressive use of media. I'm going to show the video, but I think one thing to just kind of recognize is that with all of these definitions, they'll continue to change over time. Like I keep saying, high culture, low culture, that distinction is maybe not quite as true as it is today, and which is why there is this definition of postmodern culture, this blending of high and low culture. And so I think it's important to just keep in mind that these 6 definitions are what we have for right now for pop culture, but it will continue to change over time, depending on our technology and whatnot, which we'll talk lots more about technology next week. So let me go ahead and just show you a little bit of the making of this film, because I think that in itself is really impressive. And so we'll go ahead and play this. I do just like to give everybody a warning that if you are unfamiliar about the painter Vincent van Gogh, he had kind of a sort of tragic life, and unfortunately he dies by suicide. And I just wanted to mention that because
It's
it might
probably
kind
like
of appear in the
schizophrenic.
short clip. So if he needs to make some minutes, that's totally fine. Just wanted to give you that warning, especially if you decide to go watch the full film. So here, let's go ahead and watch just a little bit of this making of Loving Vincent.
Loving Vincent is the world's first feature-length painting animation film. The filmmakers are reimagining 94 of Vincent van Gogh's paintings into the medium of film. To do this, they need to paint 66,960 frames of oil paintings.
Dang.
Loving Vincent is a huge and unique undertaking, but it started off as something very personal to one person. Painter and filmmaker Dorota Kobiela wanted to make a film about Vincent's life and paintings because of her personal response to reading his letters and studying his paintings in a time of crisis in her own life. Her short film idea has gone on to become a major international film production. Many people told us a fully painted feature film
Yeah.
would be impossible, and we should do it in the computer instead. But Dorota knew it had to be painted to give the right feeling and be as true as possible to both the spirit and the actual.
I forgot how
execution of the
awesome
work. So,
Afro Samurai's
Dorota
graphics were,
painting and
especially for her at the time it came out.
divided by a combination of live action for the actors, combined with some CG animation. Then we will have specialist oil painters who can concentrate on being faithful to Vincent's brushstrokes and colours.
Always got
We
this
did a test in 2012.
title in Afro Samurai, Samurai Jack. Always got them titles.
Oh, that makes sense. Why you said you thought that Snoop Dogg sung the Samurai Jack. I was like, it was not Samurai Jack. Afro Samurai and Samurai Jack.
Song both, but it's an Asian dude, obviously.
Yeah.
But
I
Snoop
didn't
did his intro,
did Afro Samurai.
Samurai Jack.
Not Samurai Jack. Snoop wasn't in Samurai Jack. Intro? Not maybe a later version, but not the original.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the one that they had on TV back in the day.
I'm gonna need to rewatch it.
Uh,
So I'm gonna need to look that up. But I thought that there were more episodes to Afro Samurai. I didn't know it was like yeah. As a kid, I thought, they had hella seasons.
The response that we got was so positive that it gave us confidence to try what many people thought impossible. To do the film, we needed to find 80 top-level oil painters who not only painted well enough to faithfully render Vincent's style, and not only learn enough animation to follow the underlying material, but could also add the feel and beauty of the movement in the process of applying the paint. The production faces many challenges in translating and reimagining Vincent's paintings into the medium of film. Vincent used different sizes of canvases, whereas for film, we can only have one frame size. So, for some pictures, we have had to
I forgot he was in this.
Vincent's framing. Some of the paintings we used were vertical canvases, like terrace and observation deck at the Moulin de Blutfin, Montmartre. Also for this painting, we changed the colours, because Vincent painted it in winter, whereas our film takes place in summer. So we referenced other paintings that he painted in Paris in the summertime, in and around Montmartre, as the basis for the revised palette.
Okay, we'll stop there.
Thank you.
But this kind of gives you a sense of the undertaking to create the film. But again, I think this is a good example of this like postmodern culture, this blending of high and low culture, folk and mass culture, especially because in Vincent van Gogh's life, right, he wasn't really quite well known. In fact, he died quite poor. So this is like a good example of all of this kind of merging and blending together.
Yeah, he didn't get
Alright, so
famous
those are
until
the
he
6
died.
definitions, as I
After he
mentioned
died.
before. These definitions will likely continue to change over time, but for this week's assignment, we are looking to the past, so some of these might still be quite relevant for your writing. Before we talk about the assignments and getting you set up for the class, though, I do want us to talk a little bit about the pop culture moment of the week. We're just going to have kind of like a general discussion about it, so no worries if you didn't have a chance to read the articles or anything like that, that's totally fine. So let me just kind of adjust the window here, and oops, sorry about that. We'll just leave it this size, that's okay. So each week we do have a pop culture moment of the week. Some of the articles and stuff might be a little bit older, but they're still very relevant for what's going on in pop culture today. For this week's assignment, we are talking a little bit about a documentary that's on HBO. It's not, again, not required to watch, especially if you don't have HBO, but interesting to think about. And the documentary is called Fake Famous, and essentially